Welcome back. The House Energy and Commerce Committee revealing nearly 15 National Institutes of Health officials, including former Director Dr. Anthony Fauci, were not properly reappointed to their positions in December of 2021 and likely served unlawfully until last month. Committee Chairwoman Kathy McMorris-Rodgers sent a letter to HHS Secretary Javier Becerra, warning that this mistake, quote, jeopardizes the legal validity of more than $25 billion in federal biomedical research grants made in 2022 alone. Joining us right now is Indiana Congressman Greg Pence. He is a member of the House Energy, Commerce, and Republican Study Committees. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Your thoughts on this? How did this happen?
Morning, Maria. I think, well, it's a couple of things. It was either intentional or it was an oversight. Now, one of the things that Chair Griffith and Guthrie and McMorris-Rodgers said during our press conference was we sent a letter 18 months ago asking if folks had been appointed, the 14 directors had been appointed. We got stonewalled, and then later on we were told that they were appointed. Finally, as our committee kept pushing the issue, on June 3rd, they reappointed people that aren't even there, and that's particularly Dr. Fauci, who told us we had to follow the science. He had us close schools. He had the government, which is partially still closed, and we all listened to somebody that actually wasn't properly approved by the government. And did he not know that? That's the issue that comes to mind for me, Maria, is he's been in the government a long time. He would know whether or not he had the authority to speak on behalf of the NIH or not, and he did not.
Well, I mean, look, the American people have lost trust in so many institutions, and certainly the medical community as well. But there's also the administration and their policies and their priorities. Climate envoy John Kerry is set to testify before the House Foreign Affairs Committee today about the cost of the department's green agenda. And Congressman, you know that at this point, this is the centerpiece of this administration. Axios, however, is reporting that unsold electric cars are piling up on dealer lots. So this is a priority for this administration, but it doesn't seem to be a priority for American people.
Maria, in one of our hearings, we had the Minnesota Dealer Association director come in and talk about the slowdown in EV sales. And I personally went out, bought a car about 60 days ago. I looked at EVs. I'm an all-of-the-above guy. I looked at ICE, internal combustion engines. And the problem was that the SUV that my wife wanted was 16% lower than the electric vehicle that was smaller than the one that my wife looked at. Who's going to go and buy cars like that? You know, and the government just can't throw enough freebies into this to get people to buy more expensive cars that we all have range anxiety, and we see that. I think we're going to see a lot more piling up. I said this 2 years ago, Maria, you can't force demand. And that's what they've been trying to do by pumping money into the economy, into the automakers, into the EV space.
Congressman, I'm with Daniel Garza today. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, returning back to this point that we were talking about, these unelected bureaucrats, where we've concentrated so much power, Congressman, who get to bring Americans almost to heel and make them howl based on their decisions. How do we begin to, one, of course, uphold those protocols to get them nominated and approved, you know, to their positions? But how do we begin to decentralize that power and give it back to the American people, away from these unelected bureaucrats?
Well, I do have an answer for that, and I have experience in that. In 2004, I went in with Mitch Daniels, who became the governor of Indiana. We were $2 billion in debt. Today, we're $2 billion in surplus. And the first thing he did on the day that he was sworn in was he told the state union he would no longer negotiate with them. And we're a right-to-work state, and we were able to, from that point forward, hold state employees accountable. And now today, the state of Indiana, thanks to the good governance of Mitch Daniels, my brother Mike Pence, we have great state employees, balanced budget, and one of the best business environments to work in. I think a solution is let's take a look at the Federal Employee Union.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a good point. But, you know, I want to get your take on some of the issues that are facing American citizens. The Department of Homeland Security officials announced that Chinese cyber spies were able to hack Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo and senior State Department officials' email accounts. The hackers found a vulnerability in Microsoft's cloud and had access for about a month before being discovered and cut off, Congressman. I want to get your take on what the administration should be doing about an aggressive China. I mean, here you have China spying on the State Department, just as Anthony Blinken is going to China. Then they're spying on Gina Raimondo and accessing her emails, the Commerce Secretary. And all of this as the U.S. keeps sending people to Beijing to beg for a partnership. Janet Yellen the other day bowing to her counterpart. Is this the right response to Communist China and their aggression?
Well, the Trump-Pence administration was taking the right course of action there. We're in an economic war with China, and everyone knows that.
Yeah.
They've been taking our intellectual property too long. We know that they're spying on all of us every day. We either are going to do something about it, we're either going to defend our country, or we're going to kowtow to the business communities that just want to make money in countries that don't have the same values that we have.
All right, we will leave it there. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks very much. We've been talking about the 2024 election. Real quick before you go, you're obviously expecting to be there with your brother on at the debate, right? The first primary debate. What is Vice President Pence doing to prepare to get on that stage?
Well, he's gathering the donors. He's out raising money. He spent 4th of July in Iowa. You know, obviously, in your previous segment, you said there were other options. He is being very well received when he gets out and about. He's the type of person that we need, and I would encourage all your viewers to go to his website and donate and help him out.
All right, Congressman, good to see you. Thanks very much. Greg Pence this morning.